Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a
What's
light
your
on
story?
incredible. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission? Welcome all to acessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I'm your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic paralyzed below my shoulders and a power wheelchair user. I'm the Community Relations Manager at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. Today on accessiBe Spotlight Sessions, we're joined by Joseph Canty, the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Buddies. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you on the program and just to dive into the awesomeness of you and Buddies. So let's do this. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so originally from Bronx, New York, grew up in the Pelham Bay area, and spent all my time as an adolescent growing up there. Went to college in North Carolina A&T. Proud Aggie, and did some of my professional development and graduate studies between University of Virginia, Texas Southern, and so my school leadership training at Harvard, and did some work at Wake Forest and nonprofit management. So I'm really grateful to really have those experiences to really just give myself a different perspective on the work that I do today. My background in education, I worked in education for 19 years. And as an educator, I also spent a lot of my career as a DEI practitioner. So I've been doing this a long time, coupled with involvement in the community for many years, working in underserved communities, but also working with a number of youth organizations and having a son that has intellectual and developmental disabilities. All of that is what brings me here at Best Buddies.
And so tell us about the work that you're doing at Buddies and more about Buddies.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So this role came to fruition in 2021 when our CEO Anthony Kenny Shriver and our board of directors and our diversity, equity, inclusion committee decided that they were going to really work on how we can really move our DEI efforts forward. And so part of that was setting some goals, and one of those goals was to hire a director of diversity to lead those initiatives. And so since I've been on board in 2021, we've been really focused on a big emphasis on community engagement, really building up awareness around Best Buddies in many diverse communities around the country with a focus on rural communities, but also inner cities. We've been focused on developing our DEI strategic plan to really project out what we want to do over the next 5 years as an organization nationally, and then offering those supports and priorities based on research to our state directors and local offices. So that's really been a big part of my focus lately, and then really emphasizing and communicating our mission around inclusion and making sure that we represent those communities well that we serve, both in staff, but also in content and how we present information. So we offer monthly programming around different celebrations and awareness to build cultural competency, both internally and externally. We do quarterly staff training to make sure our staff have the right tools they need to get out and support our participants from different perspectives, but also making sure that everyone's voice is heard. So we spend a lot of time engaging our participants, our staff, different stakeholders and school leaders and different community organizations. So that's where a lot of my time is spent right
now. And with Buddies, how does someone, like target demographic, how does somebody sign up to be a part of receiving services? Can you tell us a little more of that, how that goes?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for, but we have our different offices. So we have our friendship program, we have our living program, we have jobs, and we also have leadership initiatives. So each different pillar has different contact information. So if you go to bestbuddies.org, you can find that direct contact information and inquire about that. And that gives people, and then someone from our staff will reach out to you to take next steps on each of those opportunities for someone who either has IDD or someone who's looking to get involved as a volunteer.
I love that. And since joining Best Buddies, have you had a favorite memory or moment that you can share that has had a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say there's a number. I've almost been on board 2 years with this org, and gosh, Josh, I would say to you, it'd be hard to pick one, but one of my most memorable experiences would probably be at during our Hand of Sport fundraising event, which is coupled with our Best Buddies Challenge and races. And I had a chance to meet several individuals, but one, um, meaning Dudley, which is an individual, one of our ambassadors out of the Boston, Massachusetts area. And Dudley and I had a chance to really talk about his experience and his family support system and how Best Buddies has really helped him to thrive and be who he is today. And I've never forgotten that experience. One, because we just shared so many commonalities in our upbringing, but how we relate to our parents and his connection to his family and just the love and the adoration for Best Buddies from him was just beaming from him, and I never forgot that, and it really spoke to me about the impact of our work and our mission.
I love that. And as a father with a kiddo with a disability and as a DEI expert, I'd love to know what first comes to mind when you hear the word accessibility.
Oh, what opportunities are there going to be for Nolan in the future? What barriers are going to be broken down so that he can feel fully included and thrive in every way possible in society? That's what accessibility for my son means to me. And that doesn't
I love
exclude,
that.
yeah, thank you. That doesn't exclude all of the different things the term means, but for me as his dad, that's what it means.
And what can we do more around diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only within the nonprofit and for-profit world, but like yeah, basically within the whole business world? What can more can be done?
Yeah, that's a great question. When it comes to disability inclusion, is that your question? I want to be clear.
Um, I feel like within all of
All
DEI,
DI, okay, all
we
right,
have diversity. Yeah.
okay. I just want to be clear. So when it comes to DEI as a whole, what I would say when it comes to any organization, for profit, nonprofit, a way to get involved with Best Buddies, but also a way to champion this work is to really practice listening to those who are marginalized, listening to those where we need to remove barriers, listening to those who are going through these experiences, making sure that we understand the voices and experiences of individuals who feel like there are not the same opportunities where we need to close equity gaps. And then another thing that I would say is be proactive. When you understand what the issues are and you begin to really uncover some of those opportunities for growth, don't be afraid to be proactive, be intentional in that, and think about what that looks like. So some see it as strategic planning, but it's always being an active listener is part of that. So never stop the conversations and always be willing to take action.
I love that. Yeah. Once again, kind of. So when you are listening, and then it gives you an opportunity to be proactive. So like, tell us more. What is so listening to all communities? How do you engage that listening? How do you bring those different voices to the table?
Yeah, I think it's not simple at all. One of the things is it's about building trust, right, Josh? Is that's the first thing is you've got to. There's a saying in being education, people don't really care about what you know until they know that you care about them, right? And so once you
It's
show that you
powerful.
care, then I think people will listen, and then I think that's when the conversation starts. You have to demonstrate that compassion and show your sincerity and genuineness to the work, to whatever audience it is you're speaking to, and hear those concerns, hear those opportunities, and say, what can we do? And be thoughtful. Say, we have to do these things in steps. Everything can't happen overnight, and build for the purpose of sustainability. And when you're doing these things with the intention to sustain these whatever you're building, whether it's a program, whether it's a new department, whether it's policies you're developing, whether it's funding, whatever that may be, whatever that is, do it so it can be sustained for those groups, so that they never feel like this was a lost cause. Make sure people understand that the intentions are pure and you're building things to last, because that builds trust. That consistency is so important. So you always think about those things in mind. Is how can I do something to be sustainable? How can I do something that's sustainable? And when you come to conversations that way and you state those intentions, you're able to break down so many more barriers. And that's been my experience for a long time. And that's one way you do it. And another part of it is when you come to these conversations, Josh, the first thing you do is not so much state why you're there, but you ask the group, how can you be of service?
And the whole sustainability part, it's, you mentioned steps. Like, yes, it would be great if we could flip a switch and, oh my God, DEI and disability and every other type of access and inclusion things
Right?
taken care of. But that's not the way it works. For
No.
sustainability, you got to keep chipping away at it. You got to be proactive. You got to keep listening, having conversations, all the things that we've been talking about. But it's like, it's a journey. And by caring, by welcoming in different communities, you're basically allowing them to be a part of that conversation, that journey. Whether you're a nonprofit, you're a for-profit, it becomes a different story and a different future when you do that. And you can see how that can happen, right? Like, if you just have the same people sitting at the same table, having the same conversations, that's a linear path. It's a simple linear path, but if you include all abilities, all persons that can be a part of your business, there's so many different directions it can go in, because you're always going to be learning something new and trying something new.
Always. And you can't be afraid to try. You cannot be. So yes,
You
I
can't be
agree.
afraid to try.
You cannot be afraid to
I
try.
love it. And what's one thing you think we could all do to make the world a little bit more inclusive?
Patience and show each other grace.
Okay, I can get behind that. I think that can go a long way. There's within the business world with prioritizing access and inclusion, what are some of the biggest gaps that you've seen?
I think the resources that are allocated to supporting this work is something that is always at the forefront of many practitioners' minds. And I think when it comes to any community where you're finding that there are opportunities for closing equity gaps, you want to make sure that there is room for financial support to sustain that work. And I think that those are two of the biggest opportunities. There's like, okay, and when I say that, I don't mean just finances in terms of supporting programming. I mean staffing needs. Typically, these spaces are under supported in staffing, and so I think the need to just be really thoughtful when you're doing this DEI work, making sure you're setting up your teams for success, and then anybody who's supporting this work, that it's all done to be sustainable and long term impact.
To make that happen, do you have to have support at the C level, or do you have to have a direct voice? Can you talk a little bit more about
Yeah,
how you can set up
I think it's a
success?
combination of structures. I think you can definitely have direct support from the C-suite. I think that you can also build it from both ends. You can have from the ground up, so to speak, or from top down, or you can also do it in a collaborative way where the person who's sitting in the DEI director's role can work with both ends, if you will, to build up that space, which I think is probably one of the most effective ways in doing so. But you always have to have support from leadership, and leadership has to help support those efforts collectively, because that's what drives the culture.
What do you wish brands and businesses did more around accessibility and inclusion?
I wish that there was, from my perspective, and I'm speaking for me, I wish that there was representation that was consistent in these spaces, not so much from visuals that are shown in brands and businesses, but representation in the decision making process. How these marketing ads are developed, products, communications, making sure that everybody truly has a seat at the table, that those brands, those businesses, and what they produce and project out into the world are reflective of in their leadership, reflective top throughout their organizations. I wish that I saw more of that.
Joe, well said. Thank you so much for being our guest today on accessiBe Spotlight Sessions. I've really, really enjoyed our conversations.
Thank you, Josh. I enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you continue to keep up this great work. And your mission and vision to do this is amazing, and I appreciate you having me, and thank you for supporting me.
Thanks, Joe. And to all of our guests, thank you so much for staying to the end of accessiBe Spotlight Sessions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us at accessiBe_community. And as always, thank you so much for being on this journey with us. Bye, everyone. Bye, Joe.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Josh.